Like now.
Hey,
Good morning, Carla.
good morning, Stacy.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I am in your neck of the woods today. I
I
am in the Bellevue
know.
area for an event this evening, which I'm so excited about.
I heard you drove over late last night, so welcome. And we're glad, obviously, you made it safely. And what is going on tonight? Maybe you could share that with us.
So tonight is the Washington Association of Mortgage Professionals Gala. So it's the best of the best in the state of Washington. There's a category of all kinds of different things going on, from top originators to the most supported affiliates within our industry. So a gamut of things. So you and I actually, unfortunately, have to get out of our Loan Depot gear and put on some swag and dress up tonight, which will be fun to go and see.
Yes, I'm excited to finally put something on besides slippers. So I don't know.
I have tennis shoes today.
My feet are gonna hurt for sure. But and Keith is off. Keith is doing, what does he call it? Organic meat shopping?
Organic harvesting.
Okay.
Organic harvesting.
Okay. So
some people call it hunting. He calls it organic harvesting.
Yes, he's out hunting. So we will wish him back next week, hopefully. But why don't you welcome in our next guest?
I will. And before I do that, I want to just say, hey, it's November 11th. It's Veterans Day today. So a big shout out to our service members, those who have served, those who currently serve. You deserve to be celebrated. And we so appreciate everything that you do for our country to keep us safe. And with that, I want to introduce to you my good friends, Christopher Holmes and Lily Thompson with Advanced AMC. They're out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So they're in my neck of the woods, and they're actually here for the same event. Their company and Christopher have personally been nominated in a couple different categories. So congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations. What an honor to be recognized and to be part of this event. So I'm excited to see you guys tonight, and hopefully there's some heaters out there. I don't really know how it's going to be, but it'll be fun maybe it's warm for you guys being on the west side. I don't know. So anyways, thank you for being on. Why don't you give us a little bit of background of your company?
Okay. We started the company. A good friend and long-term business partner came to me. He was a appraiser in Columbia Falls, Montana, and this was in 2013. He had the idea to start an AMC. My background prior to that is I was in lending. I was a mortgage lender, an MLO from 1999 until the end of 2010, when a lot of us made our exodus at the end of 2010. I was one who decided not to renew and move on to greener pastures. So 2013.
I don't know if I'd call appraisals greener pastures, but
it's a new challenge. It's a new challenge. That's wouldn't want to get crusty and dull. But
right.
And at the time it was the AMCs in 2013, 2014 were really, really, let's just say, not customer service driven. So we think the problems we have now, if we hadn't moved the needle on this industry a little bit from where we were 8 years ago, we'd be in a big mess right now, because there was, they were all website based, and there was no customer service and no support behind them at the time. So we kind of came in with the idea of putting professionals and people behind the problem, becoming a regional, we're Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Montana currently, really coming in with a regional focus, with developing relationships with the appraisers, coming up with some analytics and tools to reward the better appraisers with more work and things of that nature, to really dig in and make this. But at the end of the day, we answer the phones. We make sure that the calls get made, and it's just Cadillac customer service is what we try to do. We make sure that that appraisal goes from point A to point B without falling through the cracks, which unfortunately, appraisers aren't the most sophisticated always in their customer service skills. So we get loan officers who want everything today, and we get appraisers who will get to it when they get to it. And we have the less than enviable job of making the whole thing work and come through in a smooth package. So we decided that was going to be the focus of the company. a customer service based appraisal management company. There was nobody doing it. And so we took it on, and we did it here in the Pacific Northwest, which has proven to be really the area that needed it. What I didn't understand when we started the company is that in Ohio, in Michigan, in these high population densities, appraisals just happened. And
imagine that.
Imagine that. But that's not the case here in the Pacific Northwest. We have so many unique properties. We have so much rural property types. We have, we get really we have we do not have a homogeneous housing supply. We do have tract homes, but not nearly the amount of Arizona or Nevada or other regions. So we really have a unique, demographic here in the Pacific Northwest with the type of homes we did. So our customer service model, our dedication to communication really fit well with the needs of appraising in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. So before we get into questions, I'll let Carla, you go next. I just want to say to our audience, if you have questions, now's the chance. Put them in the chat, and we'll try to get to them all throughout the show. But in general, we can't really talk to appraisers. So this is really special that they're here and they're talking to us and they're sharing like the behind the scenes. So just want to tell you all that be really take advantage of this opportunity and ask them what you want to ask. So that's it. Sorry, Carla, you're up.
No, it's great. And one of the things probably that we need to just spell out a little bit differently, Advanced AMC is the management company of a group of appraisers. So with the changes with Dodd-Frank and how originators can communicate when they want to order an appraisal, that's all completely different than it was, 10 years ago. And so the reason that I personally have partnership up with Advanced AMC is because, number one, they live in my community. They service the Pacific Northwest, which is Stacy's region. And just like anything else, it's all about relationships. And so what's great about this is we've got Lily here. She's an account executive on the operations side. And when we need something or we need clarification, these are the face and the folks of the people that we can reach out to. And then they have that communication with the appraiser directly. And so it's really critical when you are linked up with an AMC that you've got somebody that that has your best interest, that understands your area. We do. We have a lot of unique properties between Montana and, here clear out to Forks. In the state of Washington, there's a lot of rural properties, there's farming properties, just unique things. And so you need to have a partnership with somebody who understands that. Talk a little bit about what's changed in the last 2 years with pre-COVID, COVID, how you've had to adjust your business, because at the same time, we had this huge adjustment in rates and everybody decided to refinance. How have you handled that process? What does that look like?
Well, we've seen a lot of changes, obviously, in appraisal types and how inspections are completed. I would say if we go back to last year during the pandemic, the biggest change I would say is some of the forms, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later. They did sort of a hybrid 1004 form where it was like they waived the interior inspection, but you were still completing it on a 1004 form. It was kind of strange, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Big thing was actual inspections was very challenging. I personally had to talk to several borrowers last year and explain how the inspection happened. So we could kind of put their minds at ease a little bit because they were worried about having somebody obviously come into their home, especially if they were immune compromised, and were worried about anybody bringing illness or anything like that, especially when they're going and doing multiple houses, inspecting multiple houses throughout the day. So really just trying to work with our appraiser partners, and they worked with the borrowers, and we have so many phenomenal appraisers that we work with in the Pacific Northwest that were so good about not actually physically hand-holding, but helping those borrowers through that process so they could feel safe and feel comfortable having somebody come inspect their home. Because while we did have a lot of appraisal waivers last year, there were still those homes that required an interior inspection. So having those strong relationships with those appraisers to be able to make those borrowers feel comfortable and at ease during that process was a big hurdle, but I think we accomplished it really well. And even now, it's subsided a lot this year, especially with obviously vaccination and everything. But there are still some of those challenges out there in certain markets. But I think overall, we've overcome it very well, and we've been doing really well with some of the pandemic changes in the last year.
I think one of the most unique things, and this is kind of a side rail, but about the pandemic was, especially in the first 6 months or so, was the amount of grace that everybody showed to each other, professionally, personally. I kind of hope we maybe ring the bell and get a little bit of that back. But it was one thing that we saw from our end, appraising properties, that people were a lot more flexible. They were giving. They were willing to work through the problem. And that helps. That's half the battle, is when you have everybody working in the same direction.
Well, there were new things coming out all the time. There were constant changes with what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, what Fannie and Freddie will take because of the pandemic. And it was coming out so frequently. We were all just trying to stay on top of it and what was acceptable for the loan type. And so it's like he said, there was a lot of grace with each other, and I really appreciated how we all came together and were able to work through that together, understanding that there were also issues with, originators, loan officers working from home, and instead of actual physical location at the bank. So they were up against challenges. Appraisers are having to go into people's homes when people are feeling very uncomfortable. And then we're trying to mitigate the process. So I think, seeing that again would be just a great thing to continue, because it really helped make that process a lot smoother. And it really, as challenging as it wasn't as big of a hiccup as I thought it would have been. If somebody said you're going to be up against this next year, I would have been like, oh man, we got to start prepping for that. And we were all just scrambling, figuring it out as we went. And I still think we overcame it very strongly.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah, the whole industry came together during that time. What are you guys seeing now? So initially in the pandemic was refi, and then we're like, oh man, we're also having a purchase rally at the same time, which I don't know if that's ever happened. What are you seeing now? Refi or purchase mainly?
Purchase.
Or both?
Yeah.
Purchase.
And I think, with the appraisal waiver too on refis, you're getting a lot of the pressure is being relieved by PIWs, which is actually okay. We're okay with that because we simply can't handle the volume. It's just the truth about our industry is we're not armed for the amount of the volume of business that's out there right now.
Yeah. So maybe explain that. Like, what happens when we place an order? Any company places an order and it's a purchase, and we're closing in 3 weeks, and we're in Forks. Just explain what happens.
That's when you need advanced AMC. It right now the hot button is time, is speed. In another year it would be price, or we'd hope it's always quality. But the truth of the matter is that we are in everybody's backed up against deadlines, and that's the world we live in. So getting your orders in fast is a top priority.
And communicating.
Telling
us out the gate, this is it. I got a close date in 3 weeks. I need this back ASAP, instead of, or not, people sitting on an appraisal. They go, okay, we want to close in 3 weeks. And then they don't order the appraisal for days, and it goes by. And then they go, oh shoot, I need to order this appraisal. And now we've lost time, very valuable time. So I'd say, everybody communicating, everybody jumping on it as soon as possible is going to, and working with a company who does well and doesn't sit on orders for a long time, because I've heard horror stories of other AMCs this year where they sat on an order for a week or two, sometimes just automated kicking it out to appraisers, and they're so busy, they're like, nope, they just ignore all those emails. So having people who actually specialize in getting the order assigned very quickly, within 24 hours for almost 90% of the orders, and then complex ones within 48 hours, and being able to provide quotes and communicate with you the whole time. It's, again, all goes down to communication. It's super essential in these really tight deadlines type market.
How long, so the people watching us understand, how long does it take to appraise a home and write up the report? And let's say an average home. So don't picture a waterfront mansion, but just an average home. Yeah.
Technology has really kind of helped these guys out. Again, neither Lily nor myself are licensed appraisers, so we'll take a little card out. But and so if any of my appraising partners lynch me for this one, I won't say. I would say a standard home with no challenges, because everything's templated out. The longest part is going to be the driving around to shoot the comp photos, but I would say probably
Data.
3 hours, 2 to 3 hours on a just cookie cutter. Where you're not driving all over creation to get your comp photos, where you don't have to write a narrative, a War and Peace novel to explain why you had to adjust because there was no compare. That's the trickiest part, is the appraisers having to go out on the limb and really stand behind some of their adjustments that they make, because that's where we're just realizing we're just relying on them to be professionals and their expertise to carry it home and substantiate values. And that's tough from underwriting. Sometimes that's a hard one to get, but when you live in the Pacific Northwest, where every house is different, every property is different, it's hard to get 3 comps that are exactly like the subject property.
Yep. Unless you're in, there's ones I would say in that timeline too, down in I like to use Boise as an example because there are so many subdivisions in tract style housing. And that's pretty much what he's talking about, is those extreme, you got a ton of comps out there. We don't, other than in those very specific markets, we don't really see that very often. So I would say, maybe 2 to 3 hours if you drink a Red Bull and sat down and at it.
So like 2 appraisals a day would kind of be max for someone.
I'm sorry, how many?
Maybe 2 or 3
reports.
Yeah, these guys work some long hours. I'll
They
tell
do.
you one thing. A lot of people say, "Oh, appraising, that's an easy gig." These are some of the hardest working hour logging people you're ever going to find. These guys are working through the night. We see the timestamps on the emails, and these guys put in some hours, especially these days.
I think it's hard for people to understand how much volume happened in the last 2 years compared to just the amount of people, right? And you can't just go hire appraisers. You can't just I can't just be like, hey guys, I'd like to come to your side and be an appraiser.
Yeah.
It's not how it happens. So maybe you can explain to us how you can become an appraiser.
We actually, there's a couple different entry levels. We're starting to see the barriers of entry drop. A few years back, when around this time TRID happened, they really tightened up the requirements on it. And I might be misspeaking on the exact dates. It just seemed to me that was a similar time frame. But currently, you need to become an apprentice trainee or a licensed appraiser. There are no real there's appraisal education requirements, but a lot of people were saying, well, you have to have a 4-year degree to be an appraiser. And that was kind of the hang up a lot of people were getting on. And that's not entirely accurate. If you have a 4-year degree, your education requirements are exempt and waived. If you have a 2-year degree in certain disciplines, the same thing happens. Otherwise, it's 30 credit hours in specific college level courses.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm one of the people that thought you needed a 4-year degree.
Yeah. No,
yeah.
You
Interesting.
don't.
It was for a while. It was a requirement for a while, but they did. He said, they've kind of wanted to make it easier for people to enter in there. So the associate's degree with some specified credits can work too. Looking probably I think it's like economics when I've talked to appraisers about it, and then probably some business courses, things like that, things that are really specific to what you'll be involved with.
Then on top of that, you have the hard part is getting the trainees to find trainers out there, because you're training your competition. So we're starting to see a lot of the good old days where apprentices can do appraisals and they get signed off by the trainer. That's really helping a lot. So, by the way, that's a shameless plug if Loan Depot is considering making that change, because I think it's one of the things that will really help our industry alleviate this logjam. But so you need, I believe it's 150 hours for licensed, then a certified appraiser, and then a general appraiser. And so the hours go up, and then your training hours that you work with the trainer are 1,500
in Idaho.
And then it's also state specific. So
Washington's 2,000, but if you get a license in Idaho, you can get reciprocity with Washington. I don't know
how much is Idaho. How many hours did you say?
1,500 in the state of Idaho
and 2,000 for Washington
training hours.
Okay.
under a certified appraiser, and then 2,000 in the state of Washington. And then the reciprocity program is kind of nice, so they don't have to, do 35 hours. So they're able to do that, and I believe it's 75 for a trainee, 150, like you said, for state license, 200 for certified, and 300 for certified
I think
general.
they have we looked it up earlier. Yeah, we don't work with that many certified generals. There's only a handful.
Right,
of
they do
guys
more
out
commercial.
There.
And we do residential.
So we had to go looking that stuff up this morning.
I've talked to him about it recently, but it does require. I mean, you can hear just from that, it requires quite a bit of education. It's not like a weekend warrior class and you're an appraiser.
No, yeah, no, I don't think people realize how much
we
you
are
need.
starting to see a higher level of entry into the industry, which is kind of nice. We needed it, and I think it's becoming just a respected job. It's a well-paying job because it's in such high demand that people are figuring it out. And so that's been good. We're starting to see a lot more appraisers taking on trainees. So that's really encouraging. We just yesterday were with a company, over here in Seattle area, and they're phenomenal about it. What did they have? 12 trainees. 12 trainees.
Across the state of Washington.
So that may not sound like a lot, but in adding that to the state of Washington at one time, if you get 3 or 4 classes of that a year, we're on the right track, I think, to having, it's not going to happen overnight, but I think we're on the right track to getting enough people into the industry.
And I believe it was, I'll pull the statistic out of the top of my head, but it was the MBA conference that was about maybe a month ago. We're in San Diego. They discussed trainees, actually was a talking point there. And they did a study and they published about margin of error on reporting for certified appraisers versus trainees. And essentially the takeaway was I believe it was like 14.8% mistakes for trainees and 14.3% for certified resident. It was within 1% of each other of like margin for error. So with that study, it just exemplifies the fact that, they're not just sending people out there who, like I said, took a weekend warrior class and spent 6 hours in front of a computer, and now we're out inspecting people's homes and making valuation propositions. So it really does require a lot of education, and I think that really showed that well.
I have so many questions, but I'll let you go, Carla.
One of the things I wanted to ask about, and this is more on the mortgage lending side, and Christopher and I actually this morning had gone down for coffee. We're staying in the same hotel, just a few doors down from each other. I was asking him about the HB appraisal that is new, and has that affected your business at all? What your take is on that, and maybe explain a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, it's not being utilized much in the Pacific Northwest. So I think, like I told you this morning, our answer is we'll tell you what it knocks on our door. So it just doesn't really capture what we need. We don't have enough data, I guess you would say. And Lily can speak a little more to it. That it's a non-issue thus far. I think there's going to be other. And I know as you were saying that they're starting to have more success on it, in other regions. So
we're using it in King County quite a bit.
Yeah,
we're one of the groups, just kind of figuring it out. And I don't want to say testing, but kind of maybe. But yeah. So for the general consumer out there, what it is, it's a different type of appraisal where someone else goes and inspects your home. They're certified, generally a realtor, I believe, not your realtor, but they have that background. They take specific pictures, whatever is needed. They get that information to the actual appraiser, who can then focus on writing the report and dissecting the information and finding what they need. It's a way to save the appraiser's time from driving to Forks, that someone else can actually do that, and then they do the report. So what we have found so far, it's faster, a little less expensive, but it does speed things up when the appraiser doesn't have to physically go there. But yeah, it's a very new thing. So yeah, just curious about your guys' thought on it, but you haven't seen it. It doesn't sound like much.
No, and it's been talked about for so long. I'm personally not. I'm a skeptic. I'll be real honest. I'm a skeptic because if I'm an appraiser, and this is the word I'm getting from my appraisers too, so I'm kind of copying a little of the coffee table discussions, is that they have to trust somebody else's work that's being sent out to them. So the reliability factor and the fact that where does the liability end at the end of the day if one of those homes that was inspected was not inspected properly. So I think there's more questions yet to be determined in this whole process. On paper, I think everybody got so in love with it when it first came out, but it's problematic at best. So I think we have other tools to make this process go smoother. But
yeah, I think we have a lot of tools. I still like it as a lever to pull. I think that we'll see if it's something that consumers and agencies get used to. Like I just recently, for an insurance company on my own home, had to go through and take pictures, and it uses the same system that the appraisal system does. And insurance companies are using it. Like
they've been using it for years.
Yeah, they've been using it for years. So I think in our industry, we just kind of need to get used to it because, I mean, they're insuring the home for everything based on photos that I took, not even a third party that's coming to take them for this appraiser,
but
right?
You've got that one licensed appraiser who's putting his license on the line. That's where I think the rub's going to be, is in that you have this guy's license and his insurance is carrying. So again, these are things decided with insurance companies and above my pay grade.
Yeah.
We'll manage whatever process comes out there. We'll be ready to, I kind of hope, everything changes so much in our industry that let's take a deep breath. I'm not ready for it.
Well, I think let's be really honest about how this year went. We got beat up on turn times. We all did. People were like, I'll go for $500. Can I get it a week sooner? I mean, it was bonkers. And that's what we were all up against all summer. I mean, the volume was so challenging. I mean, that's really, I think, kind of where this whole modified appraisals come from, because the turn times are insane. Appraisers are out of their office all the time. They can't spend time analyzing data and writing reports. They're out on the road a lot. Do
you happen to know how many appraisals there are in Idaho or Washington? Do you know how many there are?
I don't. I can tell you if you give me 5 minutes, I can pull it up and tell you. But anyway,
we can talk about it tonight at the event.
It's a significant. I would hate, probably.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Thousand.
I was just wondering. Yeah.
In the thousands. Yeah. It's a lot. Well, in certain areas, there's more. I mean, there are markets out there that there's 6 to 10 appraisers for a county for coverage. I think in Montana we have a county that one appraiser goes to. Yeah. One.
We have counties like that in Washington too, where there's only one.
There are some really talented. Yeah, there's some hard areas, but I mean, everybody wants to be, in the metropolitan areas. So there's tons of appraisers in those areas. But part of it too with the turn times is appraiser recruitment. That's something that I work on as well, and it's really trying to find those appraisers out there that may not be on our panel and make sure they are on our panel and vetting them. Are they going to meet turn times? Are they going to do quality reporting? And that's really what it comes down to. I think on an AMC standpoint is, are they just sitting back and kind of saying, well, it is what it is, and just kind of leave it? Or are they actively trying to improve panels, recruit more appraisers in those difficult areas to try and help their clients and say, I'm sorry, it's 8-week turn time. Oh, I found this guy. He'll get it done in a month for you. And that's what we're trying to go out there and do. And I mean, ultimately, yes, it gives you a competitive edge, but it also is going to benefit our lending partners who are trying to get these closes done. And they've got all their documents, they've got everything together, they're ready to close this loan, and they're sitting there waiting weeks and weeks on an appraisal. I mean, that happened all summer long. The amount of rush requests we got was crazy. There were appraisers who told us, don't quote me for rushes, I can't do it. So really, I think when you put all those factors together, they're going to try to come up with something different to be able to expedite the process, right? And I think that's sort of where the birth of this idea has come from.
Yeah, and I think we just have to always constantly try to be better and move your industry along. Otherwise, you get passed up by technology and other things. And so it's just evolution. I saw something the other day where they asked someone about Bitcoin or something, and he was like in charge of some bank. It's a name I should know, and I apologize, I don't know. But they asked him about it, and he said, I'm open to it. And they were shocked. They were like, why would someone at your level in this industry be okay with this? And he said, I remember when cell phones started coming out, and I thought that will never get a foothold. Yeah. He's like, because why? Like there's payphones everywhere, and we all have change. Like, why would you ever need a phone? I mean, and he's like, clearly I missed that. So how do you know, right? Like 70H might become a thing for refis. Like, we don't know. It's just something like to be open to, I think. Right. But we are actually at 30 minutes, if you can believe that. So I'm going to let Carla ask, do you have a final question, Carla? And then we can say goodbye and hang out tonight.
Yeah. Any last little bits of nugget that you think would be good for us as lenders, consumers out there that we should know about advanced AMC?
Wow.
That one?
He's like, you didn't give me that question.
I had that teed up for you.
A shameless plug opportunity. I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's just good old fashioned work ethic. Pick up the phone, communicate, do the deal. That's what we are at Advanced AMC. We are extreme customer service. We are in an industry that has a void of customer service, and what we're dedicated to is being the communication piece that needs to exist. And without being the police department or the regulators, we make sure that it happens in a compliant environment and that things are done properly. So figuring out that balance of making sure that everything moves smoothly. Nobody's going to always be happy, but the fact that we can communicate when there is a problem, things go wrong. We are working with the human element, and we always will be, because there's just certain aspects of this industry that will always need the human touch. We are your people. we are the ones who we roll up our sleeves, we get on the phone, we make those calls, we track those emails.
We have parties for the appraisers.
Yeah, we appreciate them. We do
have appraiser appreciation parties
on a regular basis, because they are kind of, we give them a bad rap a lot. These guys are, they're kind of, everyone thinks they're doing their own thing. They've got a tough gig. It's especially with, it's insane. We had one gentleman just telling us the other day, he's like, I've sacrificed for a year and a half, my family, because it's great. We're making money hand over fist, but at what cost? These are people too. That's what we got to realize. We're not dealing with that. We're dealing with the human element. So have a little grace for these guys. Have a little patience, because they've got a kid that has to go to a football game or a soccer game too. And they're trying to have lives. Now, they're being compensated very well in this day and age, so it's hard to be too sorry for them. But just realizing that we're all people working together in this process is the biggest thing. And so we're proud to be a partner with Loan Depot. Carla, I've worked with you for many years. It's it's been a great business relationship, and just knowing that we have that work ethic and that we have your best interest in mind, and that we will do everything and exhaust all possibilities to make sure that your work gets done.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Yes.
Yeah, we'll put your company info and your names, because we will just see Lily's name up there, but we'll get all your contact info in our chat so that people know who you guys are. And we do love working with you and appreciate your grace back to us as well. It was quite a journey to get everything set up appropriately between us. But I know Carla and you guys work so well together, and maybe on the west side too, one of these days. But I'm excited to meet you guys.
A quick second for a shameless plug. Tonight we're support your industry, support your organizations. The Washington Association of Mortgage Professionals is very important to me. I'm involved in the Montana Association. We all need to do this together. So get out there, attend a golf tournament, go to a speaker meeting, listen to what's going on. These are really important things, and they're really helping build a stronger industry.
And they're fun.
And they're fun.
I've done tons of them.
They're great ways. They're great ways.
And I don't roll my eyes and sigh when I have to go to another one. I have a lot of fun there. I've made a lot of good business partners and a lot of friends. So it's worth.
That's great.
Involved.
Yeah, get involved. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yep. Great.
So I don't have access to controls. Keegan does. So normally at this point, we would pull you out of the show. I don't know if she's going to or not, but Carla and I will say goodbye. And Jay, I don't know if you saw Carla. Did you see Jay's thing in the beginning? He says, "Oh, how I miss you."
Oh,
so
no,
you'll have to You'll
hey,
have
Jay.
to, yeah. Hi, Jay. We miss you
I
too.
know.
I got to see him yesterday. We'll figure that out. We're gonna get Carla
Yes.
back in your studio, Jay. Right?
I would love that. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks, Carla, for being on today. And
Thank you,
I'm looking
Stacey.
forward to spending some time with you tonight.
Absolutely. And Keith will be back next week. So
Yep.
always fun. All right.
All
everyone.
right.
Have a
Take
great
care.
day.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.